The silence of the Gulf of Oman was severed at 2 o'clock local time as the low-frequency hum of carrier-based electronic warfare suites gave way to the sharp, supersonic transit of precision-guided munitions streaking toward the jagged coastline of southern Iran. High above the dark expanse of the Arabian Sea, the invisible silhouettes of F-35C Lightning II aircraft, launched from the deck of a U.S. supercarrier, coordinated a synchronized strike package that bypassed regional radar arrays with clinical, automated efficiency. Below them, the strategic port of Bandar Abbas, the crown jewel of the Islamic Republic's maritime infrastructure and the primary staging ground for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, became the epicenter of a concentrated kinetic sequence that lit the horizon in a series of rhythmic, secondary explosions. Coastal defense batteries, long perceived as the impenetrable sentinels of the Hormuz bottleneck, were neutralized before their operators could even register the incoming saturation of the local airspace. The air was thick with the scent of burning high-grade propellant and the ionized static of jammed communications as the physical architecture of Iran's naval power began to fracture under the weight of an overwhelming technological overmatch. This was not simply a localized retaliatory strike against a single facility. It was the systematic decapitation of the most important naval nerve center in the Persian Gulf. According to official statements released by the Iranian state-run IRNA news agency and the Ministry of Defense in Tehran, the primary actor in this engagement, the United States, conducted an act of unprovoked aggression against sovereign Iranian territory and civilian maritime infrastructure. Iranian officials claimed that the strike targeted non-military logistical hubs and storage facilities intended for regional trade, rather than the military assets cited by Western intelligence. Military spokesman for the IRGC stated that their air defense units successfully intercepted a significant portion of the incoming projectiles using the domestically produced Cordad-15 system, though they admitted to minor damage at several coastal installations. Symbolically, Tehran maintains that this action represents a desperate attempt by a declining Western power to project strength in a region where it has lost its historical hegemony and strategic footing. Strategically, the Iranian leadership claimed that such terrorist actions would only serve to accelerate their development of advanced deterrent capabilities and would not go unanswered in the maritime corridors of the Middle East. But the story quickly became far more complicated. Before we break down the specific technical failures of the regional radar net and the classified nature of the ordnance utilized in this midnight sortie, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest dramatic developments shaping global geopolitics. We are committed to bringing you the most measured and expert analysis of these rapidly evolving events as the security architecture of the Middle East undergoes a fundamental and perhaps irreversible shift, and your support ensures we can continue to provide this depth of coverage during times of escalating international crisis. According to U.S. Central Command and high-level officials within the Department of Defense, the narrative from Tehran is a calculated misdirection designed to mask the total failure of their integrated defense networks. U.S. authorities stated that the operation was a pre-planned, defensive necessity aimed at neutralizing Iranian, swarming, fast-attack craft and anti-ship cruise missile sites that have been used to harass international shipping lanes for months. Analysts noted that the strike utilized standoff capabilities, long-range missiles fired from outside the reach of Iranian defenses, which rendered the Cordad-15 batteries effectively obsolete before they could achieve a target lock. To understand the technical context, one must recognize how modern suppression of enemy air defenses, or SAD, functions by using electronic jamming to flood radar screens with false signals. The attacking force creates a blind corridor through which the actual munitions travel undetected until seconds before impact. American representatives maintain that the mission was a total tactical success, resulting in the verified destruction of 3 command and control bunkers and the silencing of multiple coastal radar arrays without a single U.S. asset being scratched. Between these narratives lies a complex reality that analysts are still working to understand. Why does the port of Bandar Abbas carry such immense strategic weight in this burgeoning confrontation? The answer is the total geography of global energy security. Bandar Abbas serves as the primary gateway for the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which approximately 21 million barrels of oil, roughly 21% of global petroleum consumption, pass every single day. Semiconductors move through here. Crude oil flows through here. Liquefied natural gas is exported through here. By targeting the IRGC facilities at this specific location, the United States is not just hitting a base. It is threatening the very hand that holds the throat of the world's energy supply. This matters because the port is the only facility capable of servicing Iran's largest naval vessels and storing the sophisticated telemetry equipment required to coordinate large-scale maritime disruptions. Attacking this stronghold carries immense strategic weight because it forces the Iranian leadership to either withdraw their offensive naval posture or risk a total loss of their maritime defensive perimeter. The message was clear. The United States will no longer tolerate the weaponization of the world's most vital maritime choke points. The cascading consequences of this strike began to ripple through the international system within minutes of the first detonation. Immediate military reaction was observed as the U.S. Fifth Fleet raised its readiness levels to the highest tier, while Iranian-aligned proxies in Iraq and Yemen began a visible mobilization of long-range drone assets and ballistic missile launchers. This mobilization triggered a chain reaction where regional governments in Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, and Tel Aviv placed their own air defense networks on high alert, fearing a multi-front retaliatory surge from Tehran's regional network. That spike in geopolitical tension has consequences far beyond the shores of the Persian Gulf. In the global markets, the price of Brent crude saw an instantaneous surge of 4.5% as investors braced for a potential blockade of the strait. Shipping insurance premiums for tankers in the region skyrocketed. Energy stocks climbed. Transportation costs surged. Supply chain risks spiked. Diplomatic channels are currently operating under extreme duress, with the United Nations calling for an emergency session to prevent a full-scale regional war. Middle powers in Europe and Asia are facing intense pressure to choose between their security partnership with Washington and their economic dependence on a stable energy market. In the United States, domestic political reaction has been a display of stark contrast. While some leaders in Congress praise the decisive action as a restoration of deterrence, others question the lack of a formal war powers authorization and the risk of being dragged into another forever war in the Middle East. The United States maintains that the strike on Bandar Abbas was a necessary and defensive measure to protect the international rules-based order and free navigation. Iran maintains that the operation was an illegal act of war that will result in a crushing response against Western interests. As the specialized salvage teams in Bandar Abbas sift through the wreckage of their most advanced naval assets, the world is left to wonder if the era of shadow wars has officially ended, replaced by the cold reality of direct state-on-state kinetic confrontation. The transition from a simmering regional rivalry to an open exchange of high-tech ordnance marks a turning point as significant as any in the last 3 decades of Middle Eastern history. Will this strike remain an isolated incident, or is it the beginning of something far larger? Stay tuned for further updates as this situation continues to develop. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest dramatic geopolitical developments shaping the world.